3 numbers, 2, 4, 6. They follow a rule, a simple one. Your job is to work out what it is. Here's how you test it. You say any 3 numbers you like, and you get told one thing, whether they fit the rule or not. Guess as many times as you want. No time limit, no trick wording, no penalty for being wrong. Most people who sit down with this puzzle fail it. Not because it's hard. It isn't. The rule is so simple that when you hear it, you'll feel a little insulted. They fail because of what they do with the freedom to test anything. And the exact move that ruins them here is the same move that ruins jury verdicts, medical diagnoses, and every argument you've ever had that went nowhere. Let me show you. In 1960, a psychologist in London named Peter Wason set this up in his lab. A subject sits down, gets the triple, 2, 4, 6, told it follows a rule he has in mind. Then he hands them something rare in life, unlimited evidence. Test as many triples as you want, and I'll tell you yes or no, every single time. Nothing is hidden, nobody is lying. The answer is completely available. And still, most of them walked out with the wrong rule. Only about 1 in 5 got it on their first announcement. So what happened in that room? Watch a typical subject. They look at 2, 4, 6, and a hypothesis arrives almost instantly. Add 2 each time. Feels obvious, so they test it. 8, 10, 12. Yes. 20, 22, 24. Yes. 100, 102, 104. Yes. 3 for 3. Confidence climbing with every answer. They announced the rule. Numbers going up by 2. Wrong. The real rule was any 3 numbers in ascending order. 3, 4, 9 fits. 1, 2, 1,000 fits. Their guesses had all been correct and completely useless. Every yes they collected was true and told them nothing, because a rule that loose says yes to almost anything. There was one move that would have cracked it in seconds. Say a triple you expect to fail. 6, 4, 2, 5, 5, 5. A single no would have redrawn the entire map. Almost nobody did it. They weren't testing their idea. They were feeding it. Wason gave the habit a name that stuck: confirmation bias. And here's the part people misunderstand. It isn't stubbornness, and it isn't ego. Nobody in that lab had a personal stake in a theory about even numbers. It runs earlier than that. Before you decide anything, it's already shaping what you go looking for, what you notice when it shows up, and what you still remember a week later. By the time evidence reaches the part of you that weighs things, it's already been sorted. You can watch it happen in the questions people ask. In one experiment, subjects were told to find out whether a stranger they were about to interview was an extrovert. They mostly reached for questions like, "What would you do to liven up a party?" Ask anyone that, and they'll sound outgoing. The question was built to come back yes. That's the 2-4-6 move again, wearing a suit. And when it's running inside your own head, it doesn't feel like a strategy at all. It feels like curiosity. Once you know the shape of it, you start seeing it everywhere. A doctor sees a patient, and a diagnosis arrives in the first 30 seconds. Everything after that becomes a test of the theory already in the room. Symptoms that fit get weight. The one that doesn't gets written off as unrelated. Usually that's fine. Most first guesses are good. It's the rare wrong one that gets confirmed all the way to the wrong treatment. A manager decides about a candidate in the first minute, then spends the hour asking questions that sound good either way. They leave certain it was an evidence-based call. It was. They just gathered it from one side. You buy the stock, then start reading about the company. Every article leaves you a little more certain. The ones that annoyed you got closed halfway. The ones that agreed got sent to a friend. And the argument you keep having with the same person, the one that never moves. You're not two people weighing the same evidence. You're two people out collecting, and neither has gone looking for the thing that would settle it against them. None of them are being stupid. They're doing what Wason's subjects did, gathering yeses and calling it research. Which raises an uncomfortable question. In all of those cases, the belief is just a belief. Nothing about the person depends on it. So what happens when something does? 19 years later, researchers at Stanford went and found out. They recruited 48 students with hardened views on the death penalty. Half were convinced it deterred murder. Half were convinced it didn't. Then both groups were handed the same two studies. One said the death penalty worked. One said it didn't. Both were built for the experiment and built carefully, so neither looked obviously stronger. Everyone read both. Everyone got the full picture. If evidence worked the way we like to imagine, both sides should have softened, moved toward the middle. The headline results said the opposite. Both sides walked out further apart than they walked in. Same pages, opposite directions. That finding traveled for 40 years. It's also the part that didn't hold. Run it on thousands of people instead of 48. Capital punishment, gun control, minimum wage, and the moving apart mostly vanishes. Show people evidence against their position and, on average, they soften. Slightly, grudgingly, but they soften. And that sounds like good news until you look at what those students actually did with the two studies in front of them. Because that part has held up a lot better. Nobody skipped the study they disliked. They read it harder than the other one. They went hunting for flaws. Small sample, wrong method, sloppy comparison. And they found some, because every real study has some. Then they read the study they already agreed with, nodded, and moved on without checking a thing. That's the trap. You never have to reject the evidence against you. You just have to hold it to a higher standard. Do that consistently, and disagreement stops feeling like a threat. It starts feeling like proof that you're the careful one in the room. So more evidence doesn't save you. It arms you. 10 years of reading about a subject rarely makes a strong opinion weaker. It usually just makes it heavier. Here's where almost everyone makes the same assumption. Fine, but those are people with strong opinions. Sharpen the reasoning, train the mind, and the filter loses its grip. In 2013, a team led by Dan Kahan tested exactly that. They gave people a math problem, a small table. How many people got better and how many got worse, in a group that tried something and a group that didn't. To get it right, you compare the two ratios, not the two biggest numbers. Glance at it, and the table says the opposite of what it actually says. For one group, the numbers were about a skin cream and a rash. Did the cream help? There, everything behaved the way you'd hope. Better at math meant better at the problem. Skill 1. Then they took the identical numbers and relabeled them. Now it was a city banning concealed handguns, and the question was whether crime went up or down. Same table, same arithmetic, same correct answer. And the strongest math skills didn't shrink the gap between left and right. They widened it. The best reasoners got it right most often, when the right answer flattered their side, When it didn't, that same ability went to work finding a way out. Even among the highest scorers, barely more than half landed on the answer the numbers supported, on a problem they'd have handled fine 10 minutes earlier. It's one experiment, and researchers still argue over how far it stretches, but the direction is hard to unsee. Reasoning ability isn't a shield, it's a weapon, and it takes orders from whatever you already believe. So what do you do with that? Not be more open-minded. That advice is useless, and here's why. Confirmation bias never announces itself. There's no flicker of dishonesty to catch. From the inside, it feels exactly like being right, like the evidence keeps agreeing with you, which is precisely how it felt to say 8, 10, 12, and hear yes. You can't feel your way out of a filter you can't feel. Which is why the fixes that work are procedural. Charles Darwin worked this out on his own. He noticed that facts cutting against his theory slipped out of his memory faster than the ones supporting it. So he made himself a rule. The moment he came across something that contradicted his own conclusions, he wrote it down. Immediately. He didn't trust himself to remember what he didn't want to be true. That's the whole discipline. Go looking for the numbers. So try it. Take something you're certain about, anything, and finish this sentence. I would change my mind if nothing comes, sit with that for a second. It doesn't mean you're right. It means you stopped testing. And if you did sit with it, instead of moving straight on, that's the rarest part of all of this. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. It genuinely means a lot. If this video gave you something to think about, do one small thing. Subscribe to CoolMyMind Psychology. Every video here unpacks the hidden psychology behind how we think, feel, and act. And subscribing is how you'll never miss the next one. Take care of your mind, and I'll see you in the next video.